Hello everybody, gotta be a WCS special for you guys today, and this video should actually have been out like last week, but my PC cooler broke, so I had to send it to repair. In terms of matches, you can see I only played 2 games on the final day, and I kind of just played with moderation. I didn't push very hard on this, because there's no point to me to go past like 16k, because that's enough to get top 10k, and if you go look at the rewards list, you're silver at 100, but other than that you're just bronze, so there's no real incentive to push past that. Either way, I have some absolutely insane replays lined up for you guys, both from ranked grind during this time and then also from the WCS. I'm aware this is the WCS game, but this is one of the most unhinged games I've had the displeasure of playing out. And I felt like this has to go first in the video. I have another very insane game right after that's also not from the WCS. Then I'll do all the WCS games, and then we'll end off with some extra videos, or like extra replays. But we are against Branded that has, I would say, the perfect hand. And I'll assure you, they'll end on Nibiru'd. Before it's my turn, they have Nibiru'd, because Branded has main phase 3. And I think he might have just hit the jackpot on best possible sort of situation he could get. Now, would this normally be a problem? Not really, not really. I can deal with stuff like that. We'll figure out a way, right? The problem lies in the fact that he's gonna have the best card in the game on my turn, and he's gonna activate it. Now, does he have it at the start of my turn? No, but he has Branded Regain, which allows him to draw a card, and he draws into literally the best card in the game, as you'll very soon see. So also, yeah, there you go. Nibiru'd, he gets to bounce back the Lubellion for follow up, and he gets to still have the Nibiru'd effect, because that's how this interaction works. And he has a full hand with pretty much insane cards, and I have to try and win the game, right? That's not really possible here. And guess what he just drew? He drew the card that starts with a Maxx and ends with a C. There it is. Yeah, so this game just became from this is totally winnable to what are you asking me to do with this deck? Of all decks, you're asking this of this deck. Like, what? Okay, you know what? F it, we ball. So, my game plan is very simple. I need any way to access a Light and Dark Chaos Angel so I can tough it out against his monster effects. And I also want a Dissipator. So that wouldn't have worked anyways. I would have gone Dissipator and try and set up something there. But, you know, it's fine that that one was banished. That was the second banish, by the way. He's banished the Bestial and the Artery. So we do get to set up our thing here. And I chain link block so he couldn't Wind Room negate the Chaos Angel. Now, why is that important? Well, he would be able to return something on the field. So, like, maybe the field spell, maybe something else. I don't want him to return anything, right? Even if my monsters are unaffected, like the Synchro ones. So this is about the best I can really do, and then end on that. We can make a Scar Red, and then together with the Crimson Gaia and the Branded Regain, we can have some stuff going there. But unfortunately, he plays this card. Not many Branded players actually play this, but that's a completely devastating card that he could activate on the Nibiru'd. Also, he just has Feather Dust, by the way. He could activate it on the Nibiru'd if he wanted, then crash into my monsters. Dissipator can no longer negate the Nibiru'd effect if you would have that opportunity. I don't think you usually get it, but you know, it kind of is what it is. Like, it's in the battle steps, right? So you don't get to Dissipator negate it. So in theory, he could just literally crash the Nibiru'd, and that's how he outs my board. But then he also has to give me another turn, either way it goes. So he kind of has to end me this time. But you might wonder, wait, why did he not activate Nibiru'd there? That'll become very clear right now when you see why the win reason was as it is. He was toggled off. I hope you guys are ready for another Unhinged Maxx C based game. So normally a Ghost Ogre on Soul Resonator can be game ending for us, just because we kind of need the bodies on the field. Or yeah, there's the Maxx C, right? That's definitely game ending. So I'm on a D rank game from Diamond 1 at this current time of moment. And also the idea here was to make Auxilla and then summon Soul Resonator off the Crimson Resonator, which would then allow me to do this with Bone that I'm doing right here, because I have to, else I can't use the extra deck for non-centur-ion monsters. Now, why did I slow it down? Well, I'm about to summon my boy, Red Supernova Dragon, and I want the animation here, and therefore I have to not be fast-forwarded. There you go. Fast-forward again. So they've activated Ghost Ogre and Imperm so far on top of the Maxx C, right? Yeah, they're gonna activate more, trust me. So, in this case, they have a Bestial, but they didn't use it here. They should have used it here, honestly, but they weren't sure what I was up to, and they were thinking a lot with their hand traps when to use it. And yes, under normal circumstances, this would really mess me up, right? Because now the Wooloop is kind of dead for me unless I want to get rid of stuff. But luckily, I still had the field spell into R3. He have the Ash, and then he has the Dominus Spurt, so I don't get a red zone. I do save the Crimson Gaia, though, which is important for the grind game, or pretty much anything, right? If I want the Scar Red back. Now keep in mind, he used Dominus Purge, he cannot use dark effects, like Dark Monsters effects anymore. Also another Maxx C, just because, you know. He had 20 cards left in his deck at that time, right? And he just have everything, even the Drill Beam. He probably runs 2 though, so he probably had one of the 2. Which is reasonable enough. Now, he's gonna make the game plan that he wants to Tyrant and out all my monsters while Typhon would turn Supernova. But there's a problem with that. First up, he has to use the Tyrant to make the Typhon. And then Typhon cannot use the effect because it's a Dark Monster and he used Purge. And then, like, doing that brings back Scar Red. Now, why did this whole plan fall apart? Well, I won due to time limit. He didn't have much time. He spent so much time with all these cards in hand and also all the hand traps, right? To figure out where he wanted to hit my deck. That I ended up winning by time limit. And honestly, if you're in a very effed up situation, you just sometimes have to go F it, we ball, and then play for the time limit. If you were gonna lose anyways, like to me, I just rather want to go out swinging. Like I'd rather summon all my big bosses if I can, and then maybe have a chance to win that way instead of, oh, maybe they brick, right? That's at least my philosophy. So we're going second here against Fiendsmith Control. They actually bricked, which means they have scary hand traps in their hand, including Maxx C. Either way, since I already expected to be Fiendsmith Control, I'm playing around the Bestials, but there's the Maxx C, which, unironically, I also just played around there a bit with those, but it's turn 2. Normally I could do like Scar Red pass, give them very few summons and set up like Auxilia and then pop all attack modes, but it's turn 2 and I'll just always go for lethal even if they have Maxx C when there's an open board state. Like I kinda have to, right? That's like what I do really well, so I should just try and do it. Like IDA can do that easily normally. There's one problem though, he has Twitchworm, which completely stops my attempt at winning the game this turn. Now there might have been some more optimal plays I could do here, but I didn't really see them at the time, and I'm not sure if there was a way for lethaling, especially because I'd already used the Centur-ion stuff now. Have to use Soul Resonator here, which is fine. We simply just make this Pater, which can bring back the Abyss if we need to, because they're definitely sending the Abyss to the graveyard here. I decided to just get some damage in before he gets more Bestials, or before, like, who knows what he's gonna get. Maybe a Nibiru'd, right? I would obviously be able to negate the Nibiru'd there, but there's not much I can really do here. I even have to banish the OG Red Dragon Archfiend. This because I didn't go through the Red Rising, so the Wooloop banishing it is a bit awkward. If he didn't have Bestials and I went through Red Rising, I could probably have OTK'd through the Twitchworm, but then he would have just shut down my turn, right, with the Bestial. Instead, we have a very solid board here going into his turn. He uses Ghost Ogre and Snow Rapid on my Abyss, which I'm fine with, because, hey, we already kind of negated the Lightning Storm, and, you know, there you go. We get Scar Red back, which is cool. Also, I decided deliberately chaining the field spell first here because he'd already used Ghost Ogre, and I'm completely fine with him using an Ash Blossom so that he doesn't have that on my turn, supposedly, unless he obviously have the third Ash Blossom in his deck. But it seemed like a really good idea to reverse the order there. I have been having a situation where a deck impulse my field spell, as an example. Not that Fiendsmith Control would do that, but you never know. Like, just gotta play around stuff, especially when the Ghost Ogre, which is why you would chain the field spell last, is already used, you know. You might as well reverse the order. Either way, he goes into Fiendsmith Requiem. I forgot to show the Supernova animation. I don't know, like I showed it once already in the video. You get that one, and yeah, that's how it is. Here I was hoping he would go for Supernova, so he forced it out, but he just didn't. Which means that, yeah, I mean, I'm happy keeping Supernova actually. I think it's a good trade. I don't understand why he wouldn't force out the Supernova. At this stage, obviously, he is forcing it out, but also, he can no longer attack directly, so I'm completely fine getting rid of the Supernova here. He obviously have Fusion Destiny, why wouldn't he? And he simply just pops the Auxilla, which is very annoying. Okay, so we actually can lethal here very easily, and he also decided to use this already, which questionable to me, but hey. Whatever, he doesn't want me to have Scar Red, he doesn't want me to pop, I guess, the 3 monsters and then OTK him from there, but unknowingly to him, he's just set up that I can win easily. We simply do the chain like this, because then he doesn't get to activate his Imperm on Auxilla to Crimson Guy. I was actually expecting him to pop the Auxilla instead, but he decided not to. But yeah, if it wasn't already an active chain like that, he could have negated the Auxilla. So I played it perfectly by baiting the DP with the Crimson Gaia. So here I made a big mistake by activating the Crimson Gaia, because that allows him to SP, which means I don't do the damage, and also now I can't Scarlight to pop his stuff. So either way it goes, it was just a massive misplay to press yes on Crimson Gaia there. Now why did I do it? Well, the Scar Red that was attacking got disrupted, and then kinda that threw me off. I got the prompt again for Crimson Gaia and I just accidentally clicked yes, right? Happens, and nothing you can really do too much about that. But I would have won there easily, very easily even. Just shouldn't have flipped face down with Crimson Gaia. I don't even know why I would do that, to be honest. Just again, misclick happens. Yeah, so that doesn't stop Supernova Dragon, by the way. It still goes off just like that. And he decides to go to a Typhon and shuffle back Scarlight, but we simply just decide to pop the Typhon. He has another Lightning Storm, but hey, that's fine. We just have Crimson Gaia bring it back, and there you go. Maybe he should have popped the back row, but then he would have still died. So either way it goes, even though I misplayed heavily with activating the Crimson Gaia, allowing him to SP Little Knight, my OG Red Dragon Archfiend, then, you know, we still got to a winning point here, even though he resolved 2 Maxx C's against me, by the way. I hope you guys have built up an appetite for Maxx C by now, because it's Maxx C o'clock. Like, normally, in this scenario, you would probably try and set up a Scar Red with Red Zone, because that's relatively safe with the Bestial and the Infinite Imperm, right? The problem with me, though, is that I had only Bone Starter, which means I don't have access to the Red Zone. And honestly, at this stage, I'm just far too committed already, and they have too many cards, so I might as well just set up as big of a board as possible. Even though I can't really make the full board, I can at best make a pure RDA board. But hey, sometimes that's just good enough, right? Maybe I'm overdoing it a bit, but I also want the draw, and at the very least I now have follow-up, and I even show the opponent I have follow-up. And we have the Imperm with, well, whatever we need here, and then a Baldrake. Now, ideally, I would want to target something like the Lotus, but they instantly make a Phantom of Yubel, courtesy of Maxx C, by the way. So right now it seems very dumb to use Baldrake to hit the Lotus, which means that he actually has lethal. So what do we do here? Well, he has another Maxx C. For the Baldrake, I was hoping he would use it, because that would give me a chance to stop the Nightmare Pain with Abyss. Instead, I let him do so many cards that he got Crossout Designator, countering himself by playing it, because now this paid us online to negate that, and Abyss can target the Nightmare Pain, and he realizes that he whiffed. I have Soul Resonator, I showed it to him, adding it to hand, which means that I'm just gonna win on the crack bag, and he surrenders. We have an incredibly awkward hand here, having both Sweater and Airtree in it, and then obviously they use Purulia. Have to at least give them one draw, and I want to play with the Centur-ion engine, discarding Bone Archfiend to minimize the draws they get, but hey, they have Ash Blossom, so I have to just give them draw, and they draw straight into a Maxx C. So now we are basically completely messed up. Like, what are we gonna do here? Oh, I see Happiness, and I'm like, well, we are definitely gonna try and set up a Supernova with Red Zone now, because Sea Elements can't deal with that. We simply add the Red Zone, and then we decide to end on this. We have the Druid's Realm for a Chaos Angel if we need it, or we can go into the Supernova with the Centur-ion stuff. For now, we're just holding a bit. There's no real point to commit too much here. Use the Druid's Realm first. We have the Nibiru'd in case of emergency, so I'm not too afraid of many things here. So obviously they also have Fiendsmith stuff, and I'll just spoil it. They have Super Pulley, because why wouldn't they have Super Pulley? I mean, obviously they have the best card. Like, they are gonna shut down everything I wanted to do because Super Pulley. End of story. Yeah, so I'm triggering it here. I would use today after, but he locks me off with the super pulley, which means, hey, you know what? I'm making a creep belt anyways, and I'll just pop the secret, or like pop the, get rid of the sequence in the screen with the Druids and that. Unfortunately, triple tactics talent, because, you know, he's a main character, so he has everything. And under normal circumstances, I would be toast here, but hey, Nibiru'd kind of just won me that game. So yeah, that's pretty good. We're going second here. I would like to change it to going first. Thank you very much. And ideally with a battle phase, so opponent ends phase. Spoiler, it wasn't because of Fuwalos, it's because they only opened hand traps. But there you go, that's another Maxx C we have to play into. Or would we need to play into it? No, there's a Duel Lockbird. Now that is very awkward with the hand we have opened to play into, but I feel like now I want to go for lethal, right? And then they do the Gamma, which locks off my like any possibility I can for lethal. But prior to that, there was lethal options for me with OG Red Dragon Archfiend Enjoyer and the Magnamod. That was the playline I was going for. Instead, this is how we end. And yeah, Duel is in effect. Didn't even get the option to shuffle in. I don't know if you normally get that. Luckily, he didn't have anything, but by the way, he have another Maxx C, as you'll see very soon. He didn't activate it there because it was a normal summon. I assume he thought I would do more stuff than just go straight into Auxilla. And there's the Maxx C. He wants to ensure that he gets the draw off of it. At this stage, I know I need this beta instantly. And also, we have the Sky Red Banis, courtesy of his Call by the Grave. So we'll simply just bring it back, and then we have lethal damage. And also we played around, you know, Nibiru'd, which means, hey, they have Spirit of Yubel. We simply just negate that, and we win anyways. Very quick, nice and easy game, just like that, even though the opponent actually just opened 2 Maxx C's. And honestly, with a bit better usage of his hand traps, maybe he could have done some more, but then he needed to not activate Duel. But I think he misread my deck, maybe, even though technically Red Dragon Archfiend can't really do anything to Duel, so you can take that as you will. So we're technically going second here, except we aren't really. Are you guys starting to notice a pattern with some of these games against Maxx C here? Because I am. Here I'm doing very fancy play I can do, because I can trigger this, which means that if he has Maxx C or something, he doesn't get to activate it there. And he sees this, which is very unorthodox, so he doesn't expect that I just synchro summon. And only at this stage he realizes, oh, okay, you're popping off. So how many summons did I just get in over his Maxx C and Fuwalos there? I denied him 1 draw from the Scar Red. I denied him 3 draws with the Synchron, Scar Red, and the Sweeper, right? Just because he didn't preemptively shotgun it. And at this stage, he's just set himself up for I can do lethal damage, even though he has resolved 2 Fuwalos and a Maxx C. Just the fact that I could trip him up with an unorthodox playline made it so he was hesitant to instantly use them, because he doesn't know what I was up to, right? But I was up to like going for lethal as soon as possible, and there you go. Very nice and easy game, just showing that it's important to try and trip up your opponents if you have a nice playline that plays around a lot of stuff, and you can still go through that and win the game. This should be the last WCS Qualifier game, and it's actually against Tenpai, so me winning the coin flip here might as well have been a lost coin flip. And I think can we just skip my turn here and go to what I've set up and on their turn, right? There's no fancy disruption or anything, so let's just skip ahead. Here's our end board, incredibly powerful, managed to set up probably the best possible thing we could with the hand we had. The only thing better we could have achieved with a custom hand would have been maybe Supernova as well. Here we have to do this whole situation, but they just negate it, so they get rid of both Abyss, Dissipator, and also they get rid of the field spell, so I can't even do my like Red Supernova Dragon or Blazer. So I'm kinda messed up about that whole thing. Luckily we can still pop the Sangen summoning, which we have to. But hey, look, he just has Kaiman in hand. He just has Kaiman. He adds Genroku but summons the Fadra, so he literally has a complete custom hand here, you know. It's kinda crazy, honestly, what he managed to have here. Besides to do this, he just has like 4 Tenpai bodies already, which is insane. I forced this so he has to go into the Dragon. And yeah, this is kind of absurd if you think about it. He goes for the Trident as well now. He decides to pop this, but this actually gives me an opening to get Scar Red back, which is literally what I'm gonna need here. He also got rid of Abyss, which was the only thing he couldn't really attack over, just by making sure the Transcendent got sent to the graveyard. But he kind of whiffs. I have 300 life left, and he can't finish off, and I'll win on the crackback very easily. Very important thing to notice here, opponent selected to go second. Means it's Tenpai, 100%, right? That's how it always is, and this is what I'm thinking at this moment. They imperm soul resonator, which is slightly annoying. We just try and set up something we can do here, but hey, look, they have Maxx C. So, here's the thing. I'm in a very scuffed situation because I know it's Tenpai, and they're just forcing me to play into Maxx C here, and this is literally the best I can do. I have 2 OP Phalanx, and the Baldrake can do something, and I actually just gave them way too many cards for what I would want when it is Tenpai, just by trying to play into it either way. This is actually a hand trap Tenpai, which is interesting because it means they're running less board breakers, and that's the second Maxx C, by the way, so that's 2 Maxx C resolved. And there's Tundra, which means we just phalanx that, and then they have a hard time doing stuff, generally speaking. Which means we get another turn. We decide to add archery with Magnamod, which allows us several different play lines and several ways that we can try and lethal them. Luckily, they have no more Maxx Cs to throw at me, but it's Tenpai. They can still have hand traps, and they can still have stuff like a droplet there, which is why we summon the Chaos Angel to get rid of that. We can simply pop off and go for lethal right now, which I'll be setting up for sure. I think I'm making Auxilla maybe here. Yeah. Gonna force the pop on both his monsters, which means the Duel does go off. But at this stage I have so many monsters on the field that I can just lethal him down, and he doesn't have anything he can trigger in the graveyard. So he would need to have a Nibiru'd, which he literally just had. So there you go. And he also has a Duel for that, so I have to just kind of pass turn. Gonna at least get the Auxilla back, which means I will have Supernova with Red Zone, which is very nice to have. So at least we get that set up. I also get the extra Dwarf from R3, and we have the Ghost Ogre. And he didn't top deck what he wanted, so he just decides to scoop, which is honestly understandable, but there you go. Double resolved Maxx C by Tenpai. Since I had both Ash and Fuwalos, I wanted to not shotgun the Fuwalos just so I could make sure I get value off it, but as soon as I see he's rushing him around the floor, I'm like, yeah, I have to use Fuwalos, but also it means I could, you know, use the Ash for disruption if they waste a call buy on the Fuwalos, or vice versa, right, depending on what I need against the deck. He ends like this, which is kind of annoying because this is a Maxx C episode. He has Maxx C, I have Ash Blossom. Guess what he's gonna negate? He's gonna negate the Ash Blossom. He also gets to curate again what my top 5 cards are. Don't really care about that. He gets rid of Regain, which is slightly annoying because, you know, I would like that, but there's the Maxx C. We try and negate it, but nope, they have around the floor. Now they're forcing me to play into Maxx C if I, you know, want to play into Maxx C, or otherwise I get wiped out. Should have used the Duel on the Scareclaw Kashtira because it allows me to go for lethal way earlier than what I'm doing here. So that's a tiny bit of a misplay there. Not that it'll matter in the grand scheme, and I don't think the guy actually wants Nibiru'd, which is the only pretty much thing that he could use to stop me at this stage. I guess if he, like, he already used Ash Blossom, right? So there's nothing really scary he could do with what he has in the deck. But obviously at this stage, I'm suspecting he could have Nibiru'd, so I would want to go for the fastest lethal possible. And right here, if I had sent the Kashtira Scareclaw, he would have gotten the Baron and that popped, and I would have just gone for lethal without needing to summon the Dissipator. And bringing back the Scarlet, which that's like, what, 2 extra dwarfs he got? Maybe even more. But could have just finished without that. But there you go. Just lethal damage. I mean, it also just shows how we can get past like the entire board of monsters and still lethal damage like this. We're going second here. I don't actually know what this deck is supposed to really do, or haven't played enough against it, I guess. But it seems like they bricked or didn't play it properly, but they do have Maxx C, so it's still gonna be interesting. So they have at least one disruption with the pop here, and they have Maxx C, and they're gonna draw into hand traps. So that's basically what we're gonna play into. But here's the good news. We actually have the Bestial Gigaline in hand, which means we can play around pretty much anything. Almost a perfect hand, except for, I guess, Primera. Either way, we just decide to play around the Maxx C, giving them one less draw there. And we make Scarlet. Our plan is to pop this month, but also they stop the Vision Resonator, which is very annoying. Delays the time which, like, where we are able to lethal them. They can't pop the Supernova with this either, so that's very good. They decide to pop the OG Red Dragon Archfiend instead. Don't know why they wouldn't pop I guess some of the tuners, but doesn't matter. It's slightly annoying. It means we won't get both Dissipator and Abyss, and I just decide, okay, we don't need that. At this stage I actually go battle phase, but then he needs to use this in the main phase, so it forces that out, so I'm deciding, okay, we have to keep extending then. Make Dissipator and set up for... I mean, to be honest, at this stage I could just beat over and go lethal, but I want to make really sure that I can do stuff. Also with the Dissipator, I'm not afraid of Nibiru'd, and he's already used Ash, you know, so it's like he does decide to give up there. But it would have been way overkill, and yeah. And there won't be any more replays in the video that plays into the opponent's Maxx C as far as I remember, so we are kind of over that part now. We're going first against Tenpai here, and we actually won the coin flip, which is kind of a downside because you kind of want to know ahead of time that you're going against Tenpai. And I'll just skip ahead because it's the striker variant, so there aren't going to be any interactive. We're just making our basic combo board. Since I opened centur-ion, I decided to make Auxilla with those instead of with Dissipator, which means I don't have a Scarlight on the field, but it's fine. Like, we still have a very solid setup here. And there's the Heavy Storm, so we have to flip up the red zone. We do lose the Phalanx, which, I mean, it's fine. I would have loved to use it on something like Tundra or something, because that would have actually maybe shut them down. But here we go instead. Crimson Dragon, just making a Blazer because we know it's the Sky Striker Tenpai variant. And I decided the Blazer negate is more important, but guess what? Sailspan, which actually is the right play because now I have a 4k defense body on the field with the 3.2k attack, which just makes it very hard for Tenpai to get past, right? Because they can only pop one of them and then they can't attack over the other. So they're doing something kind of absurd here by doing literally this, so yeah. So now they have essentially full combo here. They bring back the Hydra, but here's the funny thing. I decide to pop it because then I know that they won't be able to make the Trident Dragon, which means that I'm way safer than if they could. Because they would only have had 2 tuners and then the Transcendent, and they decide to scoop as a result because they couldn't really get rid of my board. We're going first here against Fiendsmith Control, and they're gonna have some nasty hand traps, including Duel and Lockbird, which in most cases would just shut down our turn, but luckily we have pretty much everything we need. We cannot do Primera as easily here because it can't add Wake Up and do the plays we want to do here, so we just simply do Bone and then we level down Crimson Resonator to make a very interesting play line here. That we can just do Supernova, which just plays around the fact that they could have had a Nibiru'd or something. So we get the Supernova on the field right there, and then summon back an OG Red Dragon Archfiend, which we can turn into a Dissipator, which then allows us with the Ugur loop to set up Auxilla, which then makes the Abyss replacement be Blazer, which I would much rather do this sort of setup than anything else because it plays more safely and specifically under these circumstances. And there's the Nibiru'd, which again justifies the Supernova summon that I did because at least I have an Ash Blossom and I have a Supernova for their turn, so I'm not completely barren. I decided to Ash Blossom this year because I'm kind of already messed up here and gotta do something at least. So they go into a Typhon and remove the red Supernova Dragon, which means we kind of need to top deck a good card. And honestly, this is the perfect top deck we could get because they had Maxx C. This was about to be another game of playing into Maxx C against that absurd deck, right? Just pointing that out here. They do have hand traps anyway, so we've been playing into what kind of some absurd stuff, but he kind of realizes I'm gonna like OTK him there, so he just decides to scoop. We have a very awkward hand, and we're also going into Fiendsmith Snake Eyes, so that's very fun, you know. Especially since that the ban lists haven't hit yet. Either way, we try to do our best. It's fine to discard Archery here for me, and we can set Primera with Tudea. So honestly, all in all, this is kind of fine, and we get to combo, at least so it appears. It gives us red zone. We also just have the Imperm for that turn along with the Abyss. So all in all, this is looking pretty good. Setting up the Dissipator and then going into Auxilla, and that's the Nibiru'd. That is why the game is interesting. Yeah, so we did not have a hand that could play around Nibiru'd because we kind of lacked the centur-ion stuff and more extenders, so sometimes, yeah, Nibiru'd will just shut you down. Hoping that that can at least stop them from being able to lethal me, but they just go into Fiendsmith instead, and they had Oak, so everything I did was completely pointless. Luckily, I have Nibiru'd actually, so I'm just gonna look for a spot where I can Nibiru'd them in return. Now that they were so nice to Nibiru me, I feel like it's pretty fair that I Nibiru them. Go into the link Kuribo, very annoying. And I decided this is a very good place to Nibiru because he just set this so he can't actually use the Flame Birch, so he can't extend. So I felt like I caught him at a bad spot there. Obviously as called by the grave for my Bone Archfiend, so I'm at a massive disadvantage here. Luckily we have not used Primera and we didn't discard her, so we can just get to there and we kinda just need to make Auxilla like this. Adding Wake Up so we can actually set a Centur-ion monster and then we can actually get Red Supernova Dragon going. Which, of course, I'm gonna get my boy Red Supernova Dragon if I can. We decide to just instantly go for the Red Supernova Dragon here, and let's get some animation going, I guess. Let's see here, so we have the Crimson Dragon, which, of course, I'm gonna make a Supernova Dragon with Crimson Dragon here. Let's see that animation, there we go. Showed it a bit many times this video now. I just love that animation so much. If I can catch it like that, I'm obviously gonna do it. Yeah, we still have a board banish, so I'm completely fine with this. We just bring it back, and if they activate any monster effects now, which, I mean, what are they gonna do? They kind of have to make Doom Dragon, right? But then they activate the effect, and I just banish the entire field, and they have nothing, so they lose. There you go. Despite having to literally end on a Nibiru token as my only real play, right, we still kind of won because we had some hand traps including the Nibiru, so there you go. Now this game is interesting because I've decided to experiment with some board breakers, which has ended up being 3 Dark Ruler no more at the moment that I'm trying to experiment a bit with. Now why am I doing this? Well, my coin flip win rate has been very bad recently, I feel. Like the past few seasons I've had a very bad coin flip win ratio situation going. So I feel like, hey, maybe having some board breakers in the deck will help me out. Like specifically Dark Ruler No More was the one that seemed to work best. Evenly didn't really seem to work out. Droplet, the discard cost was too heavy. And here we go either way. So we did stop their turn with the Maxx C situation. Like they didn't want to keep playing into that. But hey, they have Nibiru, so there you go. There is that. Now what can we do now? Well, we can kinda not really do anything, so we just have to pass, and he has complete open board with Fiendsmith in graveyard and just a Nibiru token that he has to either out or just not care about and set up something that can disrupt me. Which he does decide to go into a disarray here. Not like I can do anything here. Like I do have the evenly if he somehow cleared my board except for the evenly, but that obviously wouldn't happen, so this is just kind of a dead card. Which is also a situation of where, you know, I ended up cutting it, not because of this specific game or anything, it's just I didn't feel like evenly did what I wanted it to most of the time. Like obviously if you want to go for a full-on board breaker approach, definitely, but I wanted to still have my hand traps going and my bestials and stuff, so it just ended up being Dark Ruler No More seemed to be the kind of play I would go for. Here we're using the Red Rising tech I have with the... Also why I like Chain Resonator, not that you should necessarily run it if you don't know why you would run it, but it allows me to set up stuff like this in this situation, and I just feel like I'm very efficient at making use of Chain Resonator. Which is, again, why I've chosen to play it. We just simply set up a Red Supernova Dragon here, unfortunately, as Nibiru. So I played into the second Nibiru, guys. The second Nibiru. Never expect the second Nibiru, right? Never expect it. Unfortunate. Oh well, we just see what we can do. Not like we can use Red Zone right now, but we can at least get Auxilla back on their turn, so maybe that's something. Simply add so we have some follow-up and we can do some other plays. They of course go back into their Fiendsmith engine, but I don't see them outing a 10k defense token any way like possible right now. I mean they could send it, but then yeah, it's not like I really have anything, so they have to out like that, but then hey, there's still Auxilla they have to deal with, right? And they kinda need to win, because else my recursion goes full online again. But they might not be able to do that, but hey, at least they're clearing my board, right? That's the thing, and then they have, they can negate like literally all my things, and then the first card I play, right? That's pretty much what's gonna be going on. I do not have a Phalanx in the grave, but look at this top deck. This is where I like decided, yeah, Dark Ruler No More is kinda good, you know, like kinda kind of solid card. Yeah, I'm not gonna do battle damage, but we don't need that. We just need to set up a game state where we win the game, right? It's pretty much what we're looking for. So here we go again. We try this trick again. See if it works this time. But this time we're actually gonna be smart. We're gonna go into Sky Red. We're gonna pop the field with Abyss down like this. Obviously he gets to send it from the field to the graveyard, but he decides to go for the OG Red Dragon Archfiend instead, which means I just popped the drill beam that was apparently dead, so it didn't really matter. We simply get Sky Red back. Decide to negate that there. Maybe he should have gotten rid of Abyss. I don't know. Seemed like it would have been a good option. But I guess with, like, if he doesn't get rid of Abyss, right, I just flip it face down with Crimson Gaia and out it anyway, so that wasn't really a thing. And also we just make Supernova Dragon there. Didn't catch it, unfortunately, but there you go. We are just completely overkill. Now, why are we overkilling? Why aren't we just going battle phase and ending the game? Well, keep in mind, we use Dark Ruler no more, so we just have to overkill them as much as possible, because we can do that. We can actually do that, which is why Dark Ruler no more is really nice for the deck, because we just... This was just to prove the point as well, also for the replay, because I knew this was going to be a replay with that Dark Ruler no more top deck, that, yeah, Dark Ruler no more means we can't just end the game. And there you go. If you want the deck list that was used for most of the video, you can go back and watch all the deck lists from the previous video. But if you want my current experimental deck list, we're running Wild Wind and 3 Dark Ruler no more. Wild Wind is to answer stuff like Macrocosmos, or in situations where you can special summon without triggering a response. You saw in one of the replays how powerful that was with Stone Sweeper, where you can really trip up opponents. And then obviously Dark Ruler no more I feel like is very good for the deck, but again, it's just experimental, so let's go over the deck list. Synchron Resonator, Chain Resonator, which I would recommend you cut because it's not optimal, but obviously you can still run with it if you want fun. I'm running it mostly for fun, and it allows some crazy stuff. Then we have 2 Maxx C, we have Crimson Resonator, 2 Vision Resonator, 3 Ash Blossoms, we have 2 Soul Resonator, we have the Wild Wind, which is currently experimental, we have the Whirloop, we have 3 Bone Archfiends, we have Primera, Tudea, and R3. R3 is also not an optimal card to run, but hey, honestly I like it, so gotta have fun with my video game, right? Fuwalos times 3, we have 3 Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper, we have Magnemot, 2 Saronir, 2 Druid, a Ball Drake, a single Bestial Rebellion. The Wild Wind obviously taking up one of those spots there. Then we have Foolish Burial, we have 3 Resonator Call, we have the 3 Dark Ruler no more taking up spots of some hand traps. Then we have 3 Stand-Up Centurion, we have 2 Void Apocalypse, we have a Branded Regained, we have 2 Crimson Gaia, we have 2 Called by the Grave, we had a Crossout Designator here, we have 3 Emblem Oath, we have a Wake Up Centurion, we have 3 Infinite Impermanence, we have a Centurion Phalanx, and we have the Red Zone. Then we have 2 Red Rising Dragon, a Kui Belt, 2 OG Red Dragon Archfiends, then we have Scarlight, then we have Scar Red, then we have Primera Primus here, we have Abyss here, and then we have Dissipator, Chaos Angel, Cosmic Blazer Dragon, Red Supernova Dragon, Crimson Dragon, and Auxilla. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you again next time.